Hello, and welcome to an ending that is simple but requires some technique. In fact, I would say all endings require a technique, and by figuring out this technique before you go and play someone, you're able to win much faster instead of guessing the moves over the board because some of these moves just can't be found over the board. Today we'll be studying king and queen versus king. Even though you may or may not know this ending, the technique applied here can be used on every position involving a king and queen. And you'll also learn more about the board with regards to visualizing where pieces can move. We'll focus on the king and queen's movements, starting with the first chapter, which is the introduction to the queen. The queen can move in any direction. People say the queen can move anywhere, but this is what they mean. That they can move up, down, left, right, and diagonals. It's not that they can hop to anywhere on the board, but they move in straight lines, the queens. The queens are most powerful in the middle of the board. They thrive in open positions where they cannot be attacked. That's why you don't bring out queens in the opening. If you bring out your queen too early, it could be attacked easily, and then the other person wins time by bringing out their pieces, attacking your queen. However, this is just a rule. You can always bring out your queen at any time, but the best time is to bring out your queen when it cannot be attacked and there are open lines everywhere. In this case, the queen cannot be attacked by anything because there's no other piece. Now, the queen in the middle controls 27 squares. You can validate this by counting the circles. There are other ways to validate it. We'll examine those some other time. But what you have to understand is that a queen is most powerful in the middle. Here, the queen is on the edge of the board and it's not as powerful. It only controls one diagonal, but in the previous position, it controlled two diagonals. You can also see that the queen just has less squares to control, and you can validate this by counting the circles. I'll also post a link to this study in the description of the video, so feel free to look at the study where you can see the arrows and navigate through the different chapters. Now let's look at the king. The king is a priceless piece. It cannot be captured, but for the purposes of learning how the king moves and why it cannot move next to a king, we will pretend that it can be captured, just for now. The king can move just like a queen in any direction, but only one square. So when the king moves one square to the right, so does its area of control. When the black king moves one to the left, so does its area of control. The kings are getting close to each other. Now, if we move the white king one to the right, you can see that it's fine, but now the black king cannot move next to the white king because then the white king can move on top of the black king. That would be dangerous for the black king because, after all, kings are priceless and they cannot be captured. For if they were to be captured, you would no longer have a priceless piece and you would lose everything. Therefore, kings cannot move next to each other. And so the king moves down instead of left because it's safe. The white king follows it, but the black king moves back. The whole point is that the game of chess, you want to trap the king. But here, the king cannot trap the king because the king can never get next to the king. Therefore, it cannot be trapped. Another way of seeing this is, suppose that the king decided to go to the corner. The black king is drunk and goes to the corner where it has less mobility. The white king follows it, trying to trap it, but it doesn't matter. In the end, the white king has much more pressure on the black king, but the black king will always have one escape square. Therefore, we cannot checkmate or give a trap to the black king with just the white king itself. We instead need the assistance of the queen. So here we can see the exact same thing as we just saw. The white king is giving pressure to the black king. The black king cannot move here next to the white king, which is 3 squares. So one of the moves that the white queen does is this. And you can see that since the queen moves in a line, it is attacking the black king. The black king cannot go to any of the red circles because on the next move, the white queen could capture it. So the black king tries to escape, but any escape square, which is not the one in the red circle, is controlled by the white king. So it is checkmate. The other example is putting the queen right in front of the black king. In this case, the black king wants to capture the white queen and get rid of the danger, but it cannot. Because if the black king were to capture the white queen by moving on top of it, it would be moving right next to the white king. And therefore, it's an illegal position. For example, if we go back to the king's role and take a look at this variation here, that's super illegal. This cannot actually happen because the black king is now going to be able to capture the white king by moving on top of it like this. So the white king cannot do this. It's illegal. And so therefore you have barriers. Now, before I show this position, we have to do one of two patterns to give checkmate. But notice that the white king is always in front of the black king, and the black king is on the edge always. So you can put the white queen in front of the black king cannot go backward or it will fall off the board. You can also put the white queen on the edge just like the black king. The black king cannot escape because of the white king's pressure. Applying these principles, now we can checkmate the black king. But our pieces are very far away. So you have to bring them closer. Now, closer to what exactly? Most people would say closer to the black king. That may be true, but what's actually correct is to bring them closer to the center. From there, you can control everything and then the black king. So, should we move the white king or the white queen first? We actually move the piece that is slower because that way the piece that is faster gets there in one move. So we move the white king first. Then the black king tries to get in the middle. And so we keep going with the white king towards the middle because we can. That's why. Now look, the black king has made a move. It is creating a barrier. The white king cannot go closer to the middle. So now we use the white queen. The white queen is forcing the black king away from the center and now towards the edge. One way is this. The other way would be that, but then we would have simply forced the king out of the middle. This is one way to do that. Once the black king is forced out of the middle, we always approach with the white king. We give no room for the black king. Right now there is too much room. We get as close as possible. We cannot get any closer with the white king, so we use the queen. And now, this is an exercise. How do you checkmate the black king? This is a tricky exercise. You can do this in two moves, yes. So you can feel free to pause the video here. Otherwise, I'll continue with the main line, and you'll see the technique in action again. So here, you approach with the white king just as we just saw because there was too much room. Now we cannot approach any closer because we only get one row of room. So we use the queen. Here, we use the queen again because there is only one square of space. Now, we use the king because there are two squares of space. So that's the technique. Anytime that there is too much space between the white king and the black king, always use the king. When there's only one space, use the queen. And now, this is the technique. What you do is called the retreat. You retreat the queen backward. The king only has one move. It can only go to the left. It cannot go here because of the king, cannot go there because of the king, but it can't go there because of the queen. So it goes this way, and then it's checkmate. The other checkmate was here. So the queen can give checkmate from either b1, this square, or g1, this square. You can see the names of the squares because this is the letter G and the number 1, if you look very closely at the letters. So that's it. That is all there is to king and queen checkmates. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson on using the king and queen to checkmate the king. And I'll see you on the next one.